So the third of the 8 limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga is asana. And asana means seat. And I always say in India, when people want you to take your seat, they'll say to you, take your asana, take your asana. And you'll be like, oh, asana really does mean seat. And when they say, take your seat, and they say, take your asana, they give you like a straw mat. That's the seat, traditionally. So it's never like a big, comfortable chair with like a foot. You know, it's always like some very, you know, almost like a scrap. Something very thin, so that you're really on the ground. That's the seat of the yogi is like on the ground, you know, close to the ground, and humble. So it has a feeling of humility, so that when you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, asana-wise, there's a humility feeling. You humble yourself to that which is greater than you, which might just be the posture that you're taking, so that the teaching of the posture can come to you. You can't be like fool yourself while you're there. There's this kind of quietude and humility involved. Master Patanjali gives 3 sutras on asana in the Yoga Sutra. The first one is Sthira Sukham Asanam. And just to give you an idea, Sthira, if you look it up in a really good Sanskrit English dictionary, means, so he gives 2 words to describe asana. One is sthira. If you look it up, it means this: stable, even, steady, balanced, collected, composed, poised, sure, certain, engaged in, devoted to, occupied, natural, firm, upright, virtuous, ready, well-preserved, settled, and elastic. It's good, right? Firm, stable, elastic, natural, poised, sure. Not like often we do one thing. Like, are you guys sure? You know, like you could have left in that little interim. Are you sure? Right? So my hunch is that you are, because you had the great opportunity to go. Like that's breaks are like, that's a good time to go, right? So if you don't go, then hopefully you're sure that you want to be here, right? So asana should have that feeling, like, you know, you are where you're sure, you are where you want to be. Otherwise, how can you take your seat in whatever the posture that you're doing? There's a sureness, there's a steadiness, but it's natural. And then in the dictionary it says, like sentences that you might find this word in. I always find those sentences really interesting, so I thought I'd share with you a few of them. Steady in conduct. That was the first one. So that's like your yamas. Steady in conduct. Right? Capable of recovery. Capable of recovery. Sthira. Right? Like Sherry was saying, she had gotten bit by all these spiders when she was on retreat. but you know, she recovered. Right? It's like there's a buoyancy to you. You know, somebody insults you, and you know you're like, okay, but you have this feeling like you're capable to recover. Solid like a mountain, right? So sometimes in asana, people are like too soft. Other times they're firm to the point where they're rigid. They're not natural. So it's like not too soft, but not rigid, right? A still and unruffled state. A still and unruffled state. That's why sometimes, like, you have to do those things that are like on one leg to find a still and unruffled state. You know, it's like it needs to, right? Okay. Sukham. Sukham is happy, sweet, joyful, comfortable, and taking delight in. Comfortable, right? So sometimes it's hard. Like, you want to push yourself, but sometimes you see people like they're doing something like it's just they've gone so far beyond their capacity that it's so uncomfortable for them that they can't even breathe. Right? So then that's not going to be sthira sukham. Right? It'll be better for them to come out of it a little bit, and then they can actually go deeper into it. Right? So that they can have this comfortable quality to it. See, a lot of us, we work really hard at a lot of the different things that we do in our life. And the way in which we work hard causes us more tension through the way in which we're working hard. So in asana, we want to work hard, but not in a way that's going to make us even more tense than we were before we came to our practice. And I mean, as a teacher, I see a lot of people like they're working hard in a kind of unhealthy way, you know. So that happiness, joy, comfort is there. So those are the adjectives that he gives. Then when we look at the names of the asana, Vrikshasana is the seat of the tree. Bekasana is the seat of the frog. Nakrasana is the seat of the crocodile. Virabhadrasana is the seat of the warrior. Hanumanasana is the seat of the saint. Crownchasana is the seat of the heron. Pinchamayurasana is the seat of the peacock. Shavasana is the seat of the corpse. Natarajasana is the seat of the dancer. Trikonasana is the seat of the triangle. You know, it's like all the different names and forms are there, right? So it's like when the Dalai Lama says, like, I come to you the same. Well, we all look so different. How are we going to recognize ourselves in each other, right? So in asana, it's like you take the form of like every creature, you know, and there is something that you realize through taking the forms, through actually taking the forms of all those creatures. There's one principle at work. So it's beautiful practice. Okay, then he gives more adjectives in the next sutra. Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapatibhyam. Prayatna is effort, exertion, great labor to purposely go to great trouble to put great care into something. Okay? So if you go and you take a yoga class and it's like you know, you're sweating and the teacher hasn't even said one yet, you know, and you know, you're trembling, and you can't believe how hard it is. That's good. It should be like that. You know, that's prayatna. It's this effort. It's this hard work. Great labor. Okay? And then shaitilya. Shaitilya means effortless. Loose. L-O-O-S-E. Loose. Loose. Guruji used to always say that. Loose. Loose. You loose. When we were like tense. Loose. Loose. Effortless. Feeling of release. Without strain. A soft and gentle breeze. Okay. So you have those two. Effort and effortlessness. Sometimes, if you work really hard at something, at a certain point, it becomes effortless. You put the effort in, and then it's like effortless. Right? Other times, when we start something, it's like effortless. And then later on, we're like, wow, this is really hard. I remember a time in my life where I did this and it was effortless. So it can go either way. Both are necessary. We have to experience effort, and we have to experience release. My husband does Tai Chi, and in Tai Chi they have something called looking and gazing. And because I was telling him about this effort and this effortlessness, and he's like, yeah, he's always like, we have all of that in Tai Chi. He says, yeah, he says, in Tai Chi, it's like, and then he starts doing it, and he's like, you know, you gaze, and then you look. You know, like that's what he did. It was really beautiful. That idea of like, but he felt, and I think he's right, that there was some principle being shared there between effort and effortlessness, and gazing and looking. Ananta is infinite, endless, boundless, limitless, the earth, the sky, the atmosphere, and Brahma, the creator of God, God the creator. Right? So those are all things that give you a feeling of, like the earth, it's infinite, the sky, the atmosphere, it's boundless, it's limitless, it's expansive. Ananta. Sama, same. Pat is to fall. Pat. Pat, Anjali. Patanjali. Patanjali fell into the palms of this woman. Pat is to fall. Sama patibhyam, to fall into sameness with these qualities. Prayatna, effort. Shaitilya, looseness. And Ananta, infinite. It's infinite. Infinite is like, you know, Geshe-la, he always talks about helping different people on different planets. That's pretty infinite. Like, that's why you should do your homework tonight, so that you can work on different planets to different people on different time. It's like, you know, and Guruji used to always say the same thing. Guruji didn't understand, like, when we would say things to him, like, well, I can't be there because I got to be somewhere else. He didn't understand that, you know. he said we could be in many places at the same time. Right? So it's a little bit that kind of quality. Right? So those are more adjectives that he uses to describe asana. Another way sometimes to feel that infinite nature is like if someone says to me like, I really liked your lecture, then like, I know, it's like, it's just my teachers. Like I've had really good teachers. Or if someone says that a food that you made was wonderful, you prepared a beautiful meal, and then you're like, well, I have really good ingredients. Everything is available. I live with so much bounty, and it's all like this organic, incredible food. Even we can have vegetables in the middle of the winter. That really has very little to do with me, Or it's like, someone says, oh, I like your ring, and you're like, well, this was my father's grandmother's, and like everything was someone else's. Nothing. And then if for everything that you're involved in, especially like anytime someone compliments you, if you stop and think, like, someone will say, oh, you're a good storyteller. But my mom is a writer. She can tell a story. And it's like I get it from her. If I hang out with her especially, then I feel like, oh, this is just, you should hear my mom, So it's like, if for any time someone gives you a compliment, then you just immediately pass it on to like your mom or your guru or Mother Nature. I mean, Mother Nature, gave us all of this, Then that's that ananta. It's infinite. So asana should have that bit of a quality. Like you really are. You're reaching in an infinite number of directions. And that's asana. Then tato dvan dvan abhigataha, the third of the 3 sutras on asana. Dvan dvan is opposites. And abhigataha, abhi is towards, and ga is to go, and is not. So it's like you're not going to go towards opposites. You're not going to go towards the biggest opposite, of course, they say, is I'm different than you. You're the opposite of me. Well, he doesn't say that at this point that doesn't exist, but that you're not going to go towards it. You're not going to approach it. You're not looking for it. It's like at the yoga school where I teach, my beautiful boss, Carlos, told me the other day, like, people always call, he teaches meditation on Thursday nights, people always call, they want to know, like, so, like, what's good, special about your meditation? And so, like, Carlos used to say, oh, our meditation is the best, and because, ours is the most spiritual, and ours is coming from, like, Sharon and David, and, of course, it's like, it's a beautiful thing that Carlos thinks that what we do is the best, because Carlos runs our yoga school, and so it's good that he thinks that, It's a beautiful thing that he thinks that, But then the other day he said to me, but now, like, when people call and they want to know, like, what kind of meditation we teach, he says something like, well, they're all really the same, so, it's more, he's more interested in how they're the commonalities, He's not looking to describe them in terms of differences, And so it's like a point in his sadhana that he's reached where differences aren't really all that interesting to him so much, you know, and he doesn't want to like say something to someone that would set up otherness or set up division or set up pairs. My mom is she's 85 and she lives in it's called a retirement community center, and it's a place for older people. And a lot of them are there like in their 90s. And whenever I come, they're all like, "Oh, you're so young," you know, because they're like in their 90s. And so the other day, I went to visit my mom, and we had made this plan that we would meet in the lobby. So I'm in the lobby and I'm waiting for my mom. And this man, probably my age, comes downstairs, and his mother lives there, and he was visiting his mother. And he wanted to buy his mother the New York Times, and they have like a little store down there in the lobby where he could do that. So he says to the lady he would like the New York Times. So the lady says, well, we don't have any New York Times. And so he says, well, but they're right there. I see them right behind you. So she says, yes, these people have subscriptions, and these New York Times are they're on reserve. So the man says, well, you know, my mother's paying a fortune to be in this place, and you know, all she wants is the New York Times, and you should have enough New York Times for, you know, you should have some extra, not just this. I'm sitting here listening to this, and the lady was like, well, you know, it was late in the day, it was like 4 o'clock, and so she was like, you know, we do have some extras, but usually by 4 o'clock they're all gone. So he was like, well, you're going to have to give me one of those papers, because my mother has to have the paper. And he was really like, you know, loud and like rude, you know, to this lady. And then at a certain point, like, I thought he was going to like step over the thing and just like take one of the papers. Like, he was really, you know, sort of. And she just kept saying, you know, well, you know, either your mom can subscribe or you have to come down earlier, because usually by 10 the papers are gone. And he was like, well, who do I speak to? Who's your manager? I'm going to file a complaint, and you know, all of this. Finally, like, he leaves, and I turn and I say to the lady who works behind there, I'm like, you know, you handled that, you know, very nicely, very even. And she says to me, yeah, she says, well, you know, his mother's dying, and really it's just that he's very upset because his mother's dying, and it doesn't have anything to do with the paper, you know. And I was like, oh, I know. She was like, yeah, you know, his mother's like 92 or something. So, but it's like, she didn't take it personally, you know, and I think that, Tato Tvan Tvan, you're not going to go towards really taking things personally, because it's when we take things personally that we really feel that kind of like us and them. And it's bigger than that. And when we feel compassion for someone, that us and them is now what we're feeling. Okay, then there are these, the next anga is pranayama. And if anybody have like a baby that's learning how to walk? No? Do you remember when you were a baby and you were just learning how to walk? And you had figured out how to crawl. Like maybe your grandbaby, right? and then it's like you realize, like, if you can like pull on something, that will help you to get up. So like, you know, the baby, when it reaches a certain age, will reach for something to pull on, and then of course like everything comes tumbling down, right? But they pull on, and it helps them stand up, right? And then they're up, and they're sort of like that, you know. And then after a while, they learn how to like walk, you know. Like they don't want to be, first they don't want to just be laying down. Then they want to at least crawl. But then they see you, like you're on 2 feet. Like they want to be like you. They want to be like on 2 feet. So they have to figure out how to get from all fours onto like the 2 feet. So then they do that, and they figure that out. And then then they want to go walking, you know. And then they go walking, you know. Like I was at a party the other night, and this 2-year-old was just like walking all around and, you know, trying everything. And the mother was like, "Have you seen my little girl?" You know, now that the little girl can walk, you know. And then the rest of life, you know, like that. But that's energy. It takes energy to figure out how to crawl. It takes energy how to figure out how to stand up. It takes energy. Then we're all the time using our energy. And that energy in the yoga practice is sacred. And we try to use that energy towards our enlightenment. And so that goes under this limb of pranayama, which is prana is the life force, working with that energy. You need a teacher to teach you pranayama, and my teacher, after like 20 years of asana, finally taught me like the most minimum amount of pranayama, because he was always like, not ready, not ready, not ready, not ready, go home. He would never give it to me. And then one day, like, he gave me like the littlest bit, but it was like, he said, inhale, and I inhaled, and then he fell asleep. And I was like, and then he like came to, and he said, exhale, and so then I exhaled, and then, you know, he fell asleep. And there was a small group of us, and we were all like, and then finally he like came to again, and he said, inhale, you know. But more or less, you inhale, and you take from outside in, you hold, you exhale, and you take from inside out, and then you hold. So there's this reversal of directions of the flow of the breath, and a holding full and empty. And the best, if you want to see something on YouTube, Mr. Iyengar, BKS Iyengar, it's 6 minutes long. Have you seen it? He goes like this. And he does that for 3 minutes. One continuous inhale. And then he says, this is inhalation. And then he exhales. And again, it's like for 3 minutes, just one continuous exhale. And then he says, this is exhalation. So it's like that, you know. You discover the capacity of an inhalation. You discover the capacity of holding it. You're not breathing. It's suspended. And you discover the capacity. What is the capacity of exhaling? And it's measured. So like inhale 2, 3, inhale 2, 3, 4, inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, inhale 2. So it's stretched. It's stretched, which is a theme in the Yoga Sutra. To stretch the body. So you know, like in the break, what did you guys do? Right? You stretched. If you're traveling, you're on the plane, you have a little bit of a break, you stretch. It feels good. Right? Meditation is the same. You stretch your mind. It has that same feeling of relief. Pranayama, you stretch your breath. They go together. You can't really do one without the other. You certainly can't stretch your body safely if you're not stretching your breath. In between the inhalation and the exhalation, if you're paying attention, there's a moment right before the inhale is going to turn into an exhale and the direction is going to switch. And there's a moment right after the exhale, right before the inhale, where it's to stand still, right? And it's a pause. Chaturtha, Master Patanjali calls it the fourth state. And that's all he says about it. You know? But I like to think of it as like, if you go to Carnegie Hall and you hear a symphony, Stephanie's yet to leave. She's a very famous pianist, very accomplished, humble. She'd kill me if she heard what I said. Very, very humble pianist. But if you go to Carnegie Hall and you listen to like a great symphony, when the symphony's over, right, and they usually it's like boom, 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 you know, it's really kind of like the build up, and it's like, you know, the drums and, you know, it's everything is like, you know, and the conductor is boom, boom, right, and it's going, and it's going, and then it stops, right, it's finished, the symphony's over, and there's this moment where the conductor still has his arms up, and the people are still like, you know, holding their instruments. And like no one would applaud just yet. There's like this suspension, and everyone is like in heaven. Like the applause in the beginning is like a come down from that, you know. But then the applause builds, and that's pretty special too. But it's like pausing is crucial. Okay, so yama, how to treat others as long as you perceive others before you. Niyama, having a nice relationship with yourself, having positive habits, looking after yourself nicely, keeping yourself clean. Right? Asana, right? Feeling some kind of sureness in your body, some kind of stability in your body, some kind of happiness and sweetness in your posture that is experiential, of the birds, of the fish. Matsyasana is the fish, of the triangle, interested in form, interested in geometry, interested in animals, and trying to experience their form, interested in form. Pranayama, interested in the breath, the direction of energy as it moves up, as it moves down, as a way of stilling the mind, quieting the mind, pausing, and living longer, right? They say, Guruji used to say, God gives you a certain number of breaths. So if you're breathing really quickly, you're going to use them up quicker. Right? You'll breathe correctly after you're living 5,000 years, no problem. Of course, we think it's lore. But he would always talking about his friends who, you know, thousands of years ago, they were like busy doing things. Okay. Then the fifth limb is pratyahara. Pra is to go forward. Tya is to go back. Pratyahara is to hold. It's to hold back what normally goes forward, which is the indriyas, the senses. Svavishaya samprayoga chittasya svarupanukara evendriyanam pratyaharaha. To take the senses, which normally go vishaya, towards the object, and hold them back, is pratyahara. So, like this is green tea. This is green tea. It's very nice. And it has no sugar in it. Sometimes I like black tea with soy milk and sugar. And having spent a fair amount of time in India, you know, the spoon in a sugar bowl is usually like a ladle. You know, it's like a spoonful of sugar is like getting a lot of sugar. So I'm like, to me, that's like a spoonful of sugar, a ladle. And I like to have like, you know, at least a spoonful of sugar in my like really sweet, really creamy tea. Then, after like, you know, a while of that, I'll get like a toothache. I'll be like, oh, I have to go to the dentist. And then I go to the dentist, and the dentist says to me, have you been eating sugar lately? It's like, oh, you know, why? Does it show? Can you tell? Oh, yes, and you have to stop eating sugar. You know, it's very bad for your teeth. So then I have to get like a root canal. And it's like hundreds of dollars. You know, at home, my husband's like, Ruth, you know, we can't afford your habit here. You have to stop eating sugar. Okay, you know, I'll never eat any sugar again as long as I live. Only green tea, because green tea doesn't taste good with sugar. I like green tea plain. I'm like, okay, I'll just have green tea. So then I'm good, you know, for like 5 or 6 weeks. I'm like, I'm just having the green tea. And then finally I just reach a point where like, I have to have a cup of chai. You know, I'm like, I gotta have a cup of chai. I make the best chai in the world. You know, I have to have a cup of it. So I make the chai, and I'm about to put the sugar in the chai, and I'm like, okay, I'll just put like the tiniest bit. Right, so like, I'm practically using like an eyedropper, like no ladle, you know, like the littlest teaspoon in the house. I put like just a small amount of the littlest teaspoon that I have in there. I mix it all in, and then I sip the chai, and it's like so sweet. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, like normally that would be like an insignificant amount. That'd be like nothing. Like I wouldn't taste any sweetness in that, because I'm so used to so much more sugar that I don't have a taste for so little sugar, because I've overdone it. And that's what, I'm sure that can't be unique to me. We overload our senses. And we do it like in like a neurotic way, like, you know, you're at the doctor, you're at the dentist, and they say, well, it'll be like a 20-minute wait. So you're like, oh, you know, like, like, what's this magazine? Like, oh, let's see what's happening in this magazine. Or you're stuck in traffic, and you're like, oh, you know, like, well, maybe there's something on the radio, even though you don't have an antenna on your car, and none of the stations come in good. You're still like, you know, there must be something, you know, like, maybe some really staticky, you know, like news or something, you know, where you get it's like we're always wanting to have our indriyas on a vishaya, on an object, and we're always turning the senses outwards. And so Master Patanjali is saying that the Svarupa is the essence, is the true nature, is the level where we're all the same. If we stop from time to time the senses from doing what they normally do, which is to go forward, and we hold them and we draw them back, they will go back to the Svarupa. They will go back to our true essence. The senses will follow back. Let's say you go on a retreat and you decide, you're on retreat, like no magazines, of course, no sugar. Like usually retreat involves a lot of things that you're going to, like external stimuli is going to be minimized or avoided. That's what a retreat is in a way. You're retreating from the external stimuli so that you can go somewhere else, right? So if you go on a retreat, then you're eliminating all of that external stimuli, which actually turns out to be the most wonderful thing. Then let's say you come out of your retreat, and then let's say you go to Carnegie Hall and you listen to a symphony. Okay, so those are the first 5 angas, and the last 3, they all have to do with meditation: dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Desha bandhas chittasya dharana. Desha is an object. If you want to concentrate, if you want to meditate, you need an object to place your mind on. An object worthy of meditation, Master Patanjali calls a desha. So if you have a religion, you grew up with a particular religion, you might have a desha, right? You might have an object that you worship, that you meditate upon. So you don't have to change that object, right? He just really is using the word desha. It's an object. So you can choose whatever object you would like. It's a very universal approach. And bandhas is to lock. So we're really all yoga practitioners. So we have this, like if you lock your anus, it helps you pull the energy upwards. That's called mula bandha, right? That's the same word, bandhas, just to lock. And in mula bandha, you are locking something so as to move energy a particular way. So that there's a connection between a lock, even like this is like a lock, and the movement of energy. Like bandhas is to tie this finger to that finger, like to lock. It has an energetic purpose, so it's different than to lock your house, which is more material oriented, like people that keep their keys with like their wallet. It's like all together there, right? So this is like a different kind of lock, and it has to do with containing energy. Chittasya is the mind. Desha bandhas chittasya. You're going to lock the mind on the desha, on the object. That's dharana, is to concentrate. Para is to hold. Okay? So if you have an object that you yourself have chosen, and you're going to lock your mind on that object. I mean, I'm sure everybody here meditates, right? What happens, right? It doesn't stay. It doesn't stay on that object. Many other objects try to distract you from the object that you have chosen. So dharana is when another object comes to try to pull you away from your object. You can do two things. You can either turn around and go back to your object, or you can just let the object pass. It's again like positive, negative. The positive thing is you pull your mind back to your object. The negative thing is you just don't pick up that object. So you're sitting here and you're thinking about your desha, and then you think, oh, I have an avocado in the on my table, and I should eat it today. So then you can either just let that thought pass, or you can pull your mind back to your desha. If you decide, okay, you have you're focusing on your object of meditation, and then you think, oh, I have an avocado, and then you think, yeah, and I have some brown bread, and I have some, tofu, and then that could all go together, and then I have this beautiful plate, and it could go on the plate, and and it's like you've picked up on that thought. If you pick up on that thought to the extent that you've completely forgotten your desha, your object of meditation, then it's said that dharana is broken. But if you're concentrating, but you think of the avocado, but you don't pick it up, and you're able to go back, that is considered concentration. That back and forth, that interruptedness, is all part of the work of dharana. So, like, I give the same example all the time, but when I first went to India, I had a lot of free time. Like, you're going to go to India for a whole year, right? Because you're half my age, right? So you can do that. Right? When I was your age, I did the same thing. And so I would spend like months with Guruji, and then I would go travel, and I'd be like, Guruji, Wednesday I'm leaving. Be like, oh, you leaving? I mean, I had been there for months. I'd be like, yes, Guruji. I'd be like, oh, why? Well, like, I'm going to travel first, and then I need to go home. And he'd be like, oh, traveling, why? And I'd be like, well, I should see some of India. I mean, there's many things to see. And he'd be like, oh, why? And I'd be like, well, I've come such a long distance, and I should go to temples. And he just kept saying, why? Like, why? And I was convinced that there was some reason why, and so eventually I would go, and then I would travel, and I would hear his voice in the background, like, why, and then it's like he would always be like, well, how long are you going to travel for? And usually I would travel for like a month or something. He'd be like, oh, 1 month? No. You stay here 3 more weeks. After 1 week travel, 1 week tour is enough. And I was like, but India is so large, like 1 week, Guruji. Yes, 1 week is enough, He was sure like 1 week was enough. But I was sure 1 week wasn't enough. So I was always like, I was off. And I look back now and I'm like, oh, I could have had 1 more month. What was I thinking? What did I do? I don't remember anything. It's like, that's the desha. The desha is the object where we actually really want to be. And we have a tendency in our lives, like I had found the perfect object, and I was off. Because it's so deep-rooted in us to search that even when we find something perfect, we're like, in motion. Motion is prakriti. So that tendency to kind of the things that are most important you're a little bit running away from is reflected in the difficulty that we find sometimes in trying to sit and lock our mind on an object. And that tendency to run away from what's important is reversed through the work of dharana, because the karmic seeds that you're planting every time you turn your mind back are very powerful. The seventh limb is dhyana. Dhyana is meditation. Tatra pratyayika tanata dhyana. A pratyaya is an idea. So you have a desha. A desha is an object that you're going to lock your mind to. A pratyaya is an idea, a feeling. So it's not quite as concrete as like you need an object to meditate on. If you concentrate on an object, after a while it's no longer, the object is not so important. It's a feeling that you have. It's, you could say, the essence of the object. It's an idea. It's a feeling, a pratyaya. And it's a feeling that's from inside, that's good. You ever have a good feeling about something? That's a pratyaya. It's something like inside, and you have a good feeling about it. So like, I have a good feeling about Geshe and Michael. But a pratyaya is more like it's inside. You have a good feeling about something that's going on like inside. That's a pratyaya. And your tanata is to stretch, to swim. Eka is one, in one direction. You're swimming towards that pratyaya. You have a feeling that you've got something good inside, and you're going to swim in that direction. And that's called meditation. Swimming in the direction of a good feeling. When you go sometimes and you go on a retreat, let's say, you reach a certain point where you're like, wow, like I'm finally like recovered. That you have a feeling like that, where you go to a yoga class and you're like, you feel recovered, like almost like sobered up. That's a pratyaya. It's like from inside something has sobered you up. And you're swimming towards it. So you're no longer back and forth to and from the object, like dharana. You're just moving towards the object in one direction. It's like, the last years of my guru's life, I would fly from New York to Bangalore. I would take the bus from Bangalore to Mysore, where my teacher lived. I would stay in Mysore every day that I had. I would go from Mysore to Bangalore, back to New York. You know, the idea of going anywhere was like, it didn't even enter into my mind. That's meditation, right? It's like you're sitting there and you're exactly where you want to be. You have totally accepted your seat. Nothing is distracting you, nothing is pulling you, you don't feel in any way that you should be doing anything else. You're completely settled. And the thing that is settling you is from inside. I think that's a very good place to stop. And I think it's nice to leave out the eighth limb. It's always good to leave something out, right? It assures you, you'll have to, you're all like hanging on, what is the eighth limb, right? So it assures that I'll get to come back, right? I didn't complete what I had, set out to complete, but I think it's nice to stop where I stopped. And anyway, it's just about time to stop. Anyway, she's saying hello. If anybody has like a question, I could maybe answer like 1 or 2 questions.
The first question is, will you come back, please? I know that other people can ask it better than me because I didn't plan this, but it just feels like you should come back many times to me, and not just, sometimes, but whenever you would like to make this your place of teaching, also in ways that are meaningful to you. We really love that to happen.
Thank you so much.
We love you to be here.
I'm super happy here, and Geshe Michael gave me my name, right, Lady Ruth? Did you know that? I guess
I didn't really know that. I was thinking about it so much.
He was like, he was my student, you see, and isn't that crazy? And I didn't know who he was, and David Life, he was David Life's student, and then David was going away, and David wanted to know if I would teach him and Lama Christie, and but they were Michael and Christine, and David said, well, they're pretty special people, and you might want to know a little something about them. And it was this time at the yoga school where there were like a lot of celebrities that were like popping in, and like one time like Sting came to class, and I didn't know who he was, and I asked him what his name was, and it was like Sharon thought maybe it would have been good had I like known who he was, or I felt bad that I didn't, and so there was just this, it was like there was this period where there were these like important people coming, and it was like we were supposed to know who they were, and I had a bit of a rebellion to that, like I didn't want to know who was who, and so David was like, well, they're pretty special people, I think you might want to know who they are. And I would never ever speak like belligerently to David because he's one of my most beautiful and wonderful teachers, but I remember saying to him, I don't want to know who they are. And I just like left the room, and so then they were like my students for a whole year, and I really didn't know. I was like, Michael, like pull your stomach in, and Christy, like straighten your arm, and I was just like yelling at them like all year, and like I really didn't know like who they were. But at a certain point in the classes, they said, well, we can't just call you Ruth. They were like, you need an honorary, so we'll call you Lady Ruth. And I was like, okay, and then it was like Lady Ruth appeared, like, I don't know, somehow I was somebody different in like a really good way. And so it's like really magical, like it's really nice meeting Lady Ruth. I really like it. Like Lady Ruth gets to wear white and like lecture at the Three Jewels, and Lady Ruth always has like a seat reserved for her with like Diamond Mountain people, and like Lady Ruth is sponsoring Venerable Chunzum, who's this incredible monk, and you know, she's so wise and she knows so much more than I do, and then she like, you know, she asks me questions like it's so crazy, you know, and like I just want to say that I really believe in your Sangha and your lamas, and you know, that you're like when I say about like lore and believing in it, I really feel like your group is like, you can just imagine like the way we talk about people in the past, like, oh, they lived in the desert and they, you know, they had visions, and they had a special relationship to birds, and they had this lady that they liked, and I don't know. It's really, I really believe in your Sangha. So I'm to be part of it is a really sweet, huge thing. And Geshe-la and Christy-la, right before they went into their 3-year retreat, they did this amazing thing. I mean, first of all, they treated me with such respect. I mean, I didn't know that they already do all of this, you know. Well, of course, see, everybody already knows everything anyway, but it gets covered. So the teacher helps like trigger the uncovering, you know. But they listened to everything like they didn't know it. You know, they were like the most attentive students. You know, like it was like they were just couldn't believe the things I was telling them. You know, like ahimsa meant non-harming. You know, but of course, like they knew like all of that. You know, but they never ever was like, oh, well, can we skip on because like we know they like never ever led like that. You know, and then at the end of our lessons, they said, well, we feel we should meet your teacher because I speak a lot about Guruji, and Guruji was alive. So they said they're going to go to Mysore and they're going to meet Guruji before they go on to 3-year retreat. And actually, Guruji's not far from Bailakuppe, so it was like perfect. So I was like, great. So they went, and back then, like I didn't really have too many students who were like from me going to meet Guruji. Like I don't think really I had any. So this was like my first student who was like going to go to meet Guruji, and so they went to meet Guruji, and they told. By this time I knew who they were. I heard Geshe-la speak. I was like, oh my God, you know, I don't believe it. I've been yelling at this guy for like a whole year, you know, and everybody's like, you know. But he went to see Guruji, and they told Guruji that they were Ruth's student, and like then when he came back, I was like, you told Guruji you were Ruth's student, and Geshe-la was like, yeah, and I was like, you said Ruth's student, and he was like, yeah, I said that. Well, I was Ruth's student. Can you imagine, like, you know, somebody like Geshe Michael telling my teacher that he's my student, you know, he's showing up in his robes with Lama Christie all in white and all of their like offerings and everything, and I just couldn't get over it, you know. And then like then I went to India like soon after, you know, and Guruji was like, oh, you had some students. Dalai Lama's people, because Dalai Lama's people. That man, he was in robes. That lady in white, they were coming, and I was like, yes. And he was like, they're telling me, they're your students. I was like, oh. And then Guruji gave me this like really kind of like all-knowing, mischievous look, because I mean he knew everything, and he just gave me this look, and he said, you are having some very good students. And it was wild, you know. I sort of felt like he was in on it. Like it was that kind of look where it was like, don't think you know, did this, you know. Like it was like, I don't know. So, but I feel very at home with the, you know, and I hope that that the money that's raised can go to you know, to the Diamond Mountain Retreat and to Venerable Chunzum. And so if you could check, because when I was there and I gave money to some of the different like individuals, there was one individual that I wanted to give money to, and they actually said that that individual was very well taken care of, and that there was like another individual who was like, you know, going to go hungry next month. So would I reconsider? You know what I mean? So I'm not quite sure where Venerable Chunzum is in relation to that kind of thing, but if whatever money is raised can be used, like you know, however is best amongst the people who are in retreat. Like if anybody's hungry, which I'm sure nobody is. Yeah.
I understand.
But you know what I'm saying.
It will be done.
Roundabout,
just as you asked.
You know, kind of.
No problem.
Way, you know, so shall we just then have like a few moments of meditation, and if there's anybody in need of healing, then you could send your clear mind towards that person, and that's that Tonglen kind of idea that really works. And so if you have somebody in mind and you want to send them wishes, it's not like a game to play. It really works.